Good morning, everyone. We will now call this meeting to order. I'm Gabe Albornoz, President of the Montgomery County Council. Today is Monday, May 9th, and today we begin our full council sessions discussing the FY23 operating budget and also have some outstanding items within the FY23 through 28 CIP. As we begin the deliberations as a full council, I want to thank my colleagues for all of their hard work thus far in committees. We are 3 weeks in, and so far on the reconciliation list, there are over $49 million and just $9 million in reductions for a net gap of $40 million. So we have a lot of work to do, as we always do this time of year. This is not unusual. There's a lot of needs, and we will, as we always do, work our way methodically through this process. But I really want to, again, express my deepest appreciation to my colleagues, but also the central staff who are working diligently through this process. We have several items on the agenda this morning, and we will begin with the work session to discuss Wssc's FY23 through 28 CIP, and I will turn it over to Mr. Levchenko to walk us through the packet.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to note, we also have some work to do on the CIP as well, moving forward for reconciliation. With regard to the Wssc Water CIP, this is agenda item number 2, since we had the first item canceled. So just as a clarification, it's item number 2 today. I tried to provide on the cover sheet quick summary numbers for the council, and I can walk through those, and then we can deal with questions after that, I guess. So first, just the original CIP that came over back last fall. Including the what we call information-only projects, which are bond-funded projects that are not technically CIP, but which are, for all intents and purposes, CIP projects. Including all of that, the Wssc Water CIP request was, I'm just looking at the numbers here, about $4.25 billion over 6 years. And that was at about an 11.6% increase over the prior year, the 22 through 27. However, Wssc Water later transmitted a mid-cycle update. This was done earlier this year, and it was primarily in response to financial concerns and trying to find savings both within the CIP and the operating budget to improve their financial metrics, especially with regard to debt service. And so the mid-cycle update had the effect of reducing about $76.7 million from the 6-year CIP, as well as a substantial reduction in FY23 in particular. So with those numbers removed from the CIP, the proposed CIP dropped to about $4.17 billion, and it was about a 9.6% increase. And that became the new baseline that the two councils have been looking at since then. Now, those numbers may sound pretty big, and I did want to clarify a couple of points that I have on page 2 of the packet, or the cover page of the packet. First, we had one very large new project reflected in the CIP. This has to do with the I-495, I-270 Traffic Relief Plan Pipeline Relocations Project. This is about a 200, let's see, I'm just looking at the cost of the project, about $182 million project in the 6 years. However, it's assumed to be all non-WSSC ratepayer funding. It's intended to be outside contributions, consistent with what the council has understood to date to be the impacts of the rewidening projects, which is that these types of costs would not fall on ratepayers or taxpayers. So if you take that the $182 million out, and then also you have increases in the DC water related projects, the Blue Plains projects as well. So you have significant increases in those. If you take both of those out, you have a much lower increase in the overall 6-year CIP or the ongoing ratepayer related costs within the CIP. In addition, just to clarify, the Blue Plains projects, the combined increase is about $150 million over the 6 years. I've also noted some other significant increases in the WSSC Water CIP on page 2 of the packet, including the water reconstruction program, the Potomac Water Filtration Plant Main Zone Pipeline, large diameter water pipe rehabilitation program, and also another new project, the Anacostia Depot, a reconfiguration project. Now, as I note, some of those were affected by the mid-cycle update in the first year, especially. So we had significant reductions there. Moving to the committee discussion, generally, when looking at the proposed CIP and the mid-cycle update, the committee was generally supportive of that, recognizing some of these significant cuts early on that we will need to revisit over the next year and determine how to deal with those financial issues, which we can talk more about in the operating context. The committee did have some discussion about the I-495, I-270 project and asked for some clarifications in the project description form to make clear that these costs would not be borne by Montgomery County or even Maryland state taxpayers at this point. So some clarifying language was recommended in that project, and that's been included in this packet today. So that the proposed CIP with the mid-cycle update and those changes to that one project reflect the T&E Committee's recommendations to the Council today.
Thank you very much. Ms. Reed, welcome. Thank you so much. If you'd like to make some opening comments and introduce your team.
Thank you, President Albanese. And hello, council members, Vice President Glass, and council members. We are pleased to be here today to answer any questions you may have. First of all, we have our commissioners, our Montgomery County commissioners are all here with us. The Vice Chair, Hallie Dennis, Fausto Bayonet, and Eloise Foster are here with us. And then on my immediate management team, we have Joe Beach. Joe, raise your hand. You know who you are. It's Joe Beach. He's the Deputy General Manager for Administration. And then to my right, your left, is Jay Price, who is our Deputy General Manager for Operations. And next to Jay is Crystal Knight Lee. She recently was moved to a new job, Chief of Staff. She was our Director of Customer Service, and she can answer any questions you might have in that vein. And then did not miss Patty. I know she's here. Patty Callahan is our Chief Financial Officer. I have everybody. Oh, Letitia. I can't forget our Budget Director, Letitia Carolina Powell. And so with that, that is our team. We are here to answer any questions that you may have. It was a difficult budget season, as you may know. I don't know too many budgets that aren't difficult. But anyway, we are here to answer any questions that you may have about our capital budget and our operating budget.
I had a couple of questions, but before I have those questions, I want to turn over to the chair of our T&E committee, Councilmember Hucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry I was delayed in getting here, Ms. Reed, but it's great to see you and your team. Appreciate your efforts at the cost savings that's reflected in the CIP, and also appreciate Mr. Levchenko's great work on the packet and the clarifying language to make sure that everyone understands that we're going to hold the governor to his commitment that there was no taxpayer or ratepayer subsidy to the utility relocation. And with that understanding, the T&E committee recommended unanimously passage of the CIP. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Just a general question. Obviously, we're all watching with anxiousness the recession, the supply chain issues that have existed since the beginning of the pandemic. Are there any concerns? As I'm sure there probably are some, but if any of those could be articulated now, I'm anxious, particularly as it relates to the CIP as we go through, especially over the next 2 years, and having to make course alignments because of the ongoing additional expenses that were not anticipated when our budgets were developed. Are there any significant areas of concern moving forward that should be flagged now for us to be looking at in the future, or both in the short and the midterm?
I don't know if there's any one area that's of more concern than another, but certainly as everyone else is experiencing supply chain issues at this moment in time, we are impacted by that as well. With respect to water meters, pipes, those supplies are, we're having some issues and difficulties, but we're working with our vendors and contractors to make sure timing is okay with certain projects, and we're just working through that. We've also received some requests for increases in prices as a result of this issue. And I would turn to Joe Beach, who manages our administrative branch, for any particular concerns that may have come out of procurement. He can express at this time.
Good morning. For the record, Joe Beach, Deputy General Manager for Administration. Yeah, as the General Manager Reed commented, we've seen many price increases over the past 6 months. Chemicals in particular, since we use that both in our water and wastewater treatment processes, we've seen several price increases, sometimes double-digit. We handle all the price increases on a case-by-case basis according to the contract document that we have. In some cases, it allows for a price increase, and we negotiate that with the vendors. In other cases, it doesn't, and we either have to rebid or come to a negotiated settlement with the vendor. So that is something that's going to challenge both our operating and capital budget, at least for the next year. Ductile iron pipe in particular, which we use on most of our projects, has been scarce and difficult to come by. We're having definite shortages with water meters. And as you know, our meters are very old, probably average over 15 years. That's been a challenge as well over the past 6 months. And so we formed different teams to deal with that, to deal with our vendors, to sort of triage the projects that we address like that. So we expect that to be a challenge over the next 6 to 12 months as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously, like every item in the CIP, well, something we're going to have to keep tabs on. I don't see any other questions or comments from colleagues. The committee did most of the heavy lifting here, and so I think without objection, we support the committee's recommendation. Mr. Levchenko, was there anything else you wanted to cover on this particular packet?
No, we obviously have the operating piece after that, which there's a lot of linkage between the two, which we can get into, but nothing more on the CIP side.
Great. So let's move on to the operating budget then. Yep. Chairman Hucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The T&E Committee took up the Wssc FY23 operating budget on April 28th. The total budget is $873.5 million, which is an increase of $21.4 million or 2.5% from the approved FY22 budget. The committee recommends approval of the operating budget and specifically recommends a 6.5% rate increase instead of a 7% rate increase proposed by Wssc. Approval of the FY23 operating budget with expenditure and revenue changes consistent with the April 20th approved budget amendments will result in net savings to the total budget of $5.6 million and savings of $4.1 million to the rate-related portion of the operating budget. We concurred with Wssc to maintain the system development charge rates for FY23 at the current approved levels, and we wanted to keep any increase within state law limits, obviously. So with that, I'll pass it to Mr. Levchenko to walk us through the packet in more detail. Thank you, Keith.
Sure, and just to note what I mentioned earlier, a lot of the focus on the operating budget this year was Wssc Water trying to meet its financial metrics going forward, especially with regard to its debt and its debt load. And as identified in the packet, they had to make a lot of adjustments to get to their proposed budget. But one step back from that, we had our spending control limits process last fall, which is unique to the Wssc Water environment, where the two councils ultimately came to agreement on a 6.5% rate increase limit, as well as new debt, debt service, and water and sewer operating expense limits. However, Wssc Water's proposed budget came in at a 7% level. So that was some of the work that the committee had to do, was decide how it wanted to try to get to the 6.5% that had been agreed upon last fall. Once again, Wssc Water did have a, I don't want to call it a mid-cycle update, but they did do an update to their operating budget that identified some both swings up and down, revenue loss, as well as some debt service savings from the CIP mid-cycle update we talked about, and some other adjustments. When taken in total, those numbers get you to a 6.5% rate increase. Now, I do want to note, Wssc Water was recommending that those savings be used to help further with their financial metrics. They still support the 7% rate increase. But if you do take those savings, which is what the committee recommended, that allows you to get to the 6.5% rate increase. And the page 2 of the cover page for this packet does note the impact that has on the total operating expenditures. The total operating expenditures dropped from the $873.5 million that was proposed to about $864.6 million. So that became the T&E committee recommendation, which presumes a 6.5% rate increase. So that those were marginal adjustments, but I don't want to downplay the adjustments that Wssc Water had to make to get to its original proposed budget, which they're certainly prepared today to talk about. And staff would identify a lot of those as really one-time type adjustments. I don't see those being sustainable over the long haul. So I do see both councils needing to revisit these affordability issues going forward. We do have some structural issues of flat water consumption over the last couple of decades. That's their dominant revenue source. So having a flat or even declining revenue source at a time where you're hearing about cost increases on the expenditure side, especially in the water and sewer industry, does lead to expenditure increases. Even the proposed budget only had a 2.5% rate budget increase, but you were talking about a 7% rate increase. So that tells you that there's a structural issue between revenues and expenditures here that we need to deal with going forward. But for this budget, I think it was important for both councils to get through this process this year. They had agreed on a rate increase limit last fall, and the T&E committee recommendation today is consistent with that. We are still working with the Prince George's Council on their budget, and we'll be working with them between now and the bi-county meeting this Thursday to come to agreement on those numbers so that the two councils can jointly approve the Wssc CIP and operating budget this Thursday.
Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Lovchenko and Wssc for the presentation. I just wanted to follow up on the point that you just made, Mr. Lovchenko, and ask Wssc regarding the good news that water consumption per capita is flat or it's down, right? We are all being much more mindful of the natural resources that we're using, and we're using less, and our buildings are becoming more efficient as well. But as we look at the long-term structure of this model, what is the projection for when either that flips or revenues start increasing relevant to per capita usage?
Well,
Yep, turn it back on, Mr. Beach. There you go.
now, okay. Let's see. So we are beginning a cost of service study to basically look at, what our fixed fees should be and what our rates should be in order to sort of capture that cost of service. What we've noticed over the past few years, especially with COVID, is major institutional users, their consumption has been declining, but residential users has been increasing. The challenge for us there is the residential rate, with the rates that are charged for lower consuming users in our 4-tier inclining block rate structure is lower, significantly lower than those who consume more gallons per day. So we've had sort of a structural shift in our budget just in the past few years. And so the cost of service study is going to be looking at not a rate structure, that's going to stay the same as it is now, but how should we set those rates by each of the 4 tiers in order to recapture the costs accurately and fairly for all of our customers as well. So that's one way. We also, we've discussed with you, we have a number of strategies to produce non-rate revenues. We're looking at our real estate assets, seeing if there's ways we can monetize those as well. We continue to look at different properties we hold that we won't need, that we might be able to make use of. We're also looking at licensing some of the technology that is developed in-house. We have a very robust innovation program. I believe we do have a patent or a patent pending on a couple of different devices that we want to market. We have a licensing agreement with Optimatics, a software company. These take time. We've been pressuring our innovation office, and they're telling me, yeah, we're working on it. It takes time, though, to bring these different products to market. So we are working to develop recurring non-rate revenues to offset and lessen that burden on the ratepayer as well. And coupled with that, you're familiar as well with the cost control programs that we have in place. We've reduced overtime, we've made reductions and changes to our group insurance plan design, reductions, you can see, to the debt service, through any refunding opportunities we have. So we're looking at a number of different ways, but we're basically in the same boat as every other water utility in this country, because of the more efficient fixtures and conservation practices, we're selling less of our main product, but our costs are going up. So we're working to sort of address that, but it's really a long-term strategy.
I appreciate the context, especially the use of being in the same boat with other water utilities, pun intended or not. But when do you expect that report to come back? Again, because the context here is long-term planning, and we would need that information. So
we'll have a draft of the study in the early fall, and expect the final report to be in December. And we plan to build that into our FY24 preliminary proposed budget as well.
Great. Look forward to that conversation for the FY24 budget. Thank you all.
Great. I don't see any other questions or comments. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. I'll just say again, it's a good news story that we're all consuming less water, and it does provide for a challenge for the provider of the water service. And there's a lot of criticism of the rate increases, but it just doesn't seem to take into account the fact that your revenue source continues to decline because people are thankfully using less water. Probably, I imagine, mostly because the devices that they use less water. I'm not sure how conscientious people are particularly, but I think their sinks are very conscientious, their faucets are very conscientious, their shower heads are very conscientious. And that's what's working, is these requirements on devices that are changing the amount of water that we use. And gradually, as all those older bathrooms get remodeled and the kitchens get replaced, that's how it's happening. And so the trend line will continue, probably for a long time, but it does mean that the financing challenge is significant. I don't know what that means for the long term. I think we don't really know. At some point, there's a breaking point past which this model may not work as a financing model for water. I don't know, but you're in the throes of it, and we're working through it as best we can. We rates have to go up a little bit. Consumption stays flat or goes down a little bit. So people don't necessarily have larger out-of-pocket costs. If they did, then we wouldn't have this problem. Anything you'd like to say, Ms. Reed?
Yes, I'd like to add that, again, this is a situation that many water utilities are experiencing, and one of the ways that they have addressed the issue is by changing the ratio between the fixed fees and volumetric fees, meaning fixed fees are going up, are increasing. So, that's a model that we certainly could look at. The cost of service study is going to inform all of those decisions. So I think we have to, really soon weigh these options and figure out which one is the best model for us to correct some of these structural budgetary concerns and issues.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have no choice but to revisit, to consider that approach. And then generally, of course, the major cost factor is the age of the pipes, is what I understand. It's just the age of the infrastructure. The older communities have to turn it over more and replace it more and fix it more. We have a blend of that, but lots of work ahead. But And I do hope we'll get smart meters back in our capital budget request from you next year, and we can put that into place. So, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions or comments from colleagues. Then I believe without objection, we will accept the committee's recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a review of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission's FY23 operating and FY23 through 28 CIP. I'll turn it over to Chairman Reamer.
All right, good morning. Well, I'll just give my colleagues a very high level, sense here. The executive's recommendation was below the requested level for both parks and planning. The agency did some careful reviews and identified ways to revise their projected expenditures in order to cover the program areas that they were looking to fund with the increases. At the council staff and the committee review, we focused a little bit in on the lapse assumption. So when your lapse assumption has a big impact on your available resources. If you're assuming that you'll have a lot of employees who are hired, but then they don't get hired, then you have additional resources that are available. So we looked closely at that. We concluded that the lapse assumption could be or should be a little bit higher to be more realistic. That freed up a little bit of resources, and I think that largely goes for closing the remaining gap in anticipated expenditures to meet the program opportunities that the commission is seeking our support to be able to implement. So hopefully it should be a smooth conversation. But why don't we turn it to the chair for any comments he would like to make, and then we can go to council staff and turn it back to you, Mr. Council President.
Yeah, we had a long conversation about this at the committee, and the short of it is that we really don't have any problem with this. I would just say taking the lapse down too much imposes a structural limitation that becomes a problem if in future years we get these people hired again as the economy kind of stabilizes. So we just want to be cautious about not overdoing it on looking to lapse to make up a one-time shortfall, and instead look to use some of the end-of-year resources to pay down debt service and fund some of the one-time priorities, which I think the council shares as well as the planning board. So I'm not here to quibble with it, just saying that that's one of the reasons we wanted to be a little bit cautious about going too aggressively into lapse, because that would leave us with a long-term problem to solve a short-term one.
The present unfilled position level is about 20%, we understood, and the historic lapse rate is about 10%, something like that. The projected lapse rate was about 7.5%, so I think we're just taking it to the historic level at a 10. It just frees up a little bit of money. Is that right, Jeff? I think that was right.
I didn't think you needed to get into reducing lapse. I thought
Okay, we didn't change the assumption.
I thought you were using the fund balance on this year's money to pay debt service that was currently in the FY23 number, and not changing the lapse. So that's an alternative way to do it, but then you really affect next year.
We're using end-of-year. We're using end-of-year money, part of which is attributable to the fact that we didn't hire some people to pay down some things that on a one-time basis that will allow us to not have to ask you for more money next year.
Okay, So welcome back, Jeff Zients, and I'll turn it to you, Pam, to take us in.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So you have the staff report before you. There's just a summary on the first page that gives you a highlight of the MNC PPC operating budget for both the administration fund and the park fund, what was approved in FY22, and then what the FY23 county executive recommended budget is. There is an increase in the executive's budget over the approved 22, but not as high as the amount that has been requested by MNC PPC. The highlights are on the second page of the cover page, but we'll go through the staff report. That way you can kind of get all of the information in front of you. We won't go into every little detail, but we want to get it before you in case there's any questions. The FY23 proposed tax-supported operating budget, including debt service for MNC PPC, is $162.7 million, and this represents a $12.4 million or 8.3% increase over the adopted FY22 budget. The executive has recommended a smaller increase, as I just noted. For the administration fund, the executive's recommended budget is about $1 million below the commission's request. And for the park fund, his recommended budget is about $1.2 million below the commission's request. Non-tax supported operating budget items total about $20 million, which is an increase, 2% increase over FY22. And you'll see on page 2 of the staff report, there's a chart that you see every year, and it gives you all the breakdown of the elements of this budget, what was adopted in 22, and what the request is in FY23 and that change. On the third page, you'll see that there's always a report about how this affects or aligns with the spending affordability guidelines that are approved by the council. In FY23, the commission request is about $151.6 million for SAG or aggregate operating budget purposes, or about $5.3 million more than the SAG target. And the executive's recommended target is also slightly above the targeted amount. And there's a chart that shows you that on page 3. Compensation in the FY23 budget as submitted by the commission, the increase for the compensation marker is $3.9 million. It's probably the largest increase in the compensation package, which also includes other things, other personnel costs such as OPEB, pension, health insurance costs, and reclassification marker. So the total compensation change for FY23 in their proposed budget equals $5.4 million. And then again, there's some summary major changes in the FY23 budget, but you'll see these as we go through the different pieces. And so on page 4, you'll see we get into some highlights of the park fund. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Zients.
And as we just started talking about, the park fund is about $1.7 million over the executive recommended budget. The FY23 budget request was for $118 million in tax dollars. The main difference between the assumptions in the budget otherwise made last year was in fact that their vacancy rate is much higher than the assumed lapse. It generated really $6 million in fund unassigned fund balance. The commission has already assigned $5.1 million of that now, and of that, $680,000 was already for paying down debt service that they previously assumed in the FY23 budget. In order to meet the executive recommendation, the way to do it is to pay down more debt service from FY22 funds and reduce that number in the FY23 number. That will get you to the $1.7 million reduction at FY23. Now, so far as I know, the committee is putting $100,000 to increase the ball field nutrient program. I believe there is the room to do that by Again, paying down debt service by a further $100,000. And you could do it that way, or you can increase the budget by $100,000. That is your choice. The other funds that the committee reviewed, including the Park Management Fund, Property Management Fund, the Enterprise Fund, the Advanced Land Acquisition Fund. There's no problems with any of those funds. In fact, the Enterprise Fund seems well positioned to generate cash for other capital facilities, given the fact that they raised fees this past January, some of which are taking effect into next year. That is my report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. We got some really compelling testimony from a number of residents regarding the impact of parks this year, especially over the last 2 years. We've talked about that publicly before, and I just want to acknowledge and note the nimbleness and the creativity and innovation used by all of you. It was noticed and appreciated, and I really thank the committee for their hard work in going through this year's budget. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments at this time? I don't see any. So what, Mr.
So you're putting the $100,000 on the reconciliation list, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's an additional 100, right, Jeff, over the 250?
If that's the way you want to do it, I think you could also do it by paying down.
Yeah, I mean,
more
we were
debt
trying to
service.
avoid having to put it on the reconciliation list. We were, right? I thought that was the plan.
Right, so the 250 is actually taken off the reconciliation list because that is what we just mentioned will be paid through the fund balance that remains in the park fund. So the current reconciliation amount for parks is the $100,000 for the nutrient management system.
Okay.
It's
Got
whether
it.
you want to continue to keep that on the reconciliation
Yes.
list. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. All right, great,
Next.
thank you. All right, so we'll turn it to the administration fund. If you're following in the staff report, it's on page 13. The commission's budget request for the administration fund for FY23 is a little over $37 million and represents a 9.6% increase over FY22 adopted budget. As I mentioned earlier, the executives recommends a little over $36 million, so this is about $1 million difference. And you can see how that breaks down to the different components of the administration fund on page 13 in the staff report. One of those components is the commissioner's office. This is the chair's office and the technical writers unit. And their budget request for FY23 is a little over $1 million, and it's a slight decrease from FY22 due to a personnel shift from the Commission's office to the legal department. And to meet the CE's budget, the Commissioner's office will reduce its requested increase in supplies and materials and reduce some of its requested increase for staff training and conferences. And the committee supports 3-0 this proposed budget change to meet the CE's budget as it relates to the Commissioner's office. Next, we move on to the planning department on page 14. There's an overview. There are 10 divisions within the planning department, and they're listed on that page with their each component FY22 and 23 budgets. And then there's also work year charts. The department's work program is organized into 4 different categories for the work program: master planning, regulatory planning, information resources, and management and administration. And on page 13, you see that chart, and there's no proposed staffing changes for FY23. As part of the budget review for the planning department, the council always does review their work program for the coming year. You also learn about this in the spring when you hear the semi-annual report from the planning department, which you had in April. And below on page 15, you'll see that for FY23, the proposed additions to the planning department's work program, the Friendship Heights Urban Design Study, initially listed as a study sector plan in the budget, which was prepared last fall, but in the spring semi-annual is really being noted as a study. And then you have some other planning initiatives and studies, including countywide transportation data asset management, parking lot design study, comprehensive study of redevelopment tools, and an update to the density incentive guidelines. And the committee had a conversation about this. We reviewed the work program, and they support 3.0 the work program as presented by the planning department and slightly amended in the semi-annual. Any questions with that? Okay, great. Next on page 16, but mostly primarily on pages 17 and 18, you'll see the professional services, the initiatives and professional services that the planning department's requesting. Many of these relate to master planning efforts that they undertake that are multiple years to produce and require consultant assistance with. But in addition, you'll see some of the studies we just mentioned that they requested on their work program, including the incentive density guideline update, the comprehensive study of redevelopment tools, et cetera. There's just more detail for you there if you wanted to review those. Like the Park Fund, the Planning Department also looks to see if there are any savings they can take advantage of in FY22 to pre-fund some of the items for FY23 in order to help meet the executive's budget. And what you'll see on page 18 is just that. So the department has some savings equaling a little over $100,000 that they can put forward to help their gap to meet the executive's budget. And then if you turn to page 19, what you'll see is 2 tiers as a recommendation or request for reconciliation items that they would also use to meet that funding gap, but that if the council has additional funding, they would like to see restored, obviously tier 1 before tier 2. And the committee recommends restoring the tier 1 reductions that you'll see on the top of page 19. One is for the comprehensive study of redevelopment tools. The second one was for the parking lot design study. But the committee went further and said that they would also like to see an addition of $50,000 to that tier 1 item to not only look at the tools for redevelopment, but the associated costs for redevelopment in the county, and to expand that study to look more at the economic cost of development. I'll take a pause there. Great. Okay. Awesome. And next we move on to then Central Administrative Services. And they have an increase to their budget for the FY23 year over FY22. And as you know, each year the Montgomery County and Prince George's County do a bi-county approval of their budgets. So what you see today is really something that you will be approving, in a sense, to take to this bi-county meeting on Thursday. And what they have requested, they have also found savings in Montgomery County and Prince George's County to help meet their gap, quite a bit of savings actually. And so the amount on their reconciliation list is very small. It's at the bottom of page 20. It's around $47,000. And so strongly recommend that this get added back to their budget. It's not a large amount, and then it will make the process at CAS much more smoothly with the bi-county, because there will be no cuts other than the savings they themselves have offered. And the committee supported that unanimously.
Without objection.
Great. And then the final thing are their special revenue funds that the council also sees and make sure there's an appropriation for in the budget. Those are all listed on page 22 and 23 of the staff report, and the committee again supports these funds and supports a $500,000 transfer from the administration fund to the Development Review Special Revenue Fund, and the executive supports that transfer as well. And that's good. Okay. Then we have one more thing. We do have some state aid to talk about. The CIP for the Parks Department was something that the council did review in detail and completely, but since that time, state aid has been awarded for a number of items. Those are all listed on multiple pages of the staff report, and state aid is typically very specific about what it supports and where it's used, and so those were all noted, very detailed by the Parks Department. There is one slight change from what's before you here that was discussed at the end of the committee meeting, which is you'll see that at the time this went to committee, money for the Bethesda Lot 24 and the Bethesda Women's Farm Market, that project supporting that park area, state aid was put into the Bethesda Park Impact Payment PDF, but there's been further discussion with the committee the Parks Department and OMB, and the decision was that this really should have its own PDF. So you'll see that the appropriation noted in the staff report for the park impact payment of Bethesda, that'll not appear there. Instead, it will get its own PDF, which will be coming to the council in the next few weeks. I just wanted to highlight that. And with all of that, there's also some program open space funding that came from the state. It was quite generous, and committee supported all of those changes.
Chairman Reamer.
Just want to say thank you to the commission for success in getting such significant state investment in the parks. I mean, there's a lot of individual park items here that are great. Very broadly, you've got substantial funds coming for the Wheaton Regional Park Improvement, the Long Branch Parks Initiative, the Bethesda Farm Women's Market, and generally park refreshers. So that's about $10 million. That's fantastic. And there's a whole lot of individual parks in there with specific improvements. So it's good news. We're going to see a lot of improvements here.
Yeah, this was a group effort. Some of you were involved, a number of state legislators. Really appreciate all that help. If I could just put in a preemptive plug and take as the jumping off point something Council President Albornoz had just said. We appreciate your acknowledging the fact that we've tried to be very aggressive and creative during the pandemic to deliver not only the same level of service, keep parks open, but to do new things. And I know that you're going to be under a lot of pressure on reconciliation with the CIP. We understand that, and we're prepared to be helpful. We want to be helpful, but I would just caution that a lot of these state capital projects cannot be used to backfill holes in the CIP for a couple reasons. The first is obviously we chased this money hard. We told these state legislators that we needed it for new additional projects. If you take with one hand what was given with the other, we're not going to be able to go back to them and ask them to fund new and additional projects with state aid in the future, because they were told they were going to be supplementing our budget, not replacing local sources of revenue. Secondly, because these state capital allocations are tied to specific projects in specific parks for the most part, with the exception of program open space, we simply are not in a position to move money around from some of these level of effort programs to make up the difference if you take the money out that was provided by the state aid, because it's been allocated for specific purposes. And in fact, we're going to need matching funds for some of those projects to make them happen. So we understand the pressure you're under, and we want to work with you. We work with council staff, but we just caution you that just because we got $1 in state aid doesn't mean that's $1 or even 90 cents that you can or should take back, because otherwise it'd be extremely disruptive for our ability to get these projects done and also to get the money in the future. Hope that's not putting too fine a point on it, but I felt we should try to get in front of that.
Thank you. No, it's important context, and I do also want to give special thanks to our General Assembly and our delegation, who did an outstanding job this year in this and numerous other categories. I've got two colleagues who are in the queue, Councilmember Navarro, followed by Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you. I want to thank the Fed Committee for their work, and also it really is just a comment to reiterate what you were just describing, Mr. Anderson. I think that we in the county have particular characteristics that really make us stand out, and our park system is definitely one of them. And once again, I don't think it can be overstated that not only did the pandemic allow for so many to find solace in the parks, but I think it also had a lot of people visiting parks that perhaps they had never really done before, and that's a good thing. And so I appreciate your point. I definitely will be paying close attention as we work through our reconciliation list, but just wanted to express my appreciation because I've seen not only the increase in the use, but also how you've been so creative in activating and also providing more and more experiences and amenities, and it's been completely noted. So I did want to express that because throughout my tenure on this council, I've seen the progression, and it's very exciting what all of you are doing. So I didn't want to miss this opportunity because, again, one of my last times talking about these issues from this vantage point, and it's noticeable. I think that it's no coincidence also that, we do have an amazing lead for parks. And I hope, he's obviously very dedicated and very active. And so I'm sure that it will continue to be in good hands because I do think that that's what it takes. It takes that kind of partnership, not just with, your agency, with the council, but also the state. And I think that's the way to go. It's a great formula, and we'll do whatever we can to obviously honor what you just described because it's very true. Thank you.
Perfect transition to our lead for parks, Councilmember Friedson, who I know just behind the scenes has been a steadfast supporter and advocate among all of us, and we've appreciated his leadership very much. Councilmember Friedson.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you, and I'm glad we noted the support of the General Assembly because taken in this particular moment, there's 3 critical projects plus the program open space funding that were intentional, one in Wheaton, in Long Branch, and then this Lot 24, Lot 10 in Bethesda that is central to the realization of the Bethesda Downtown Plan. And I think that's important, and there was huge support for those particular projects that I'm really excited about, and I think all of us should be excited about because the council helped put those projects in position to be able to receive state support, which matters. Last year, we got $10 million for the Pepco Powerline Trail, which will be a critical connector, a highway of trails, so to speak, to connect the county north-south, similarly to how we have an east-west connection with the Capitol Crescent Trail, which is one of the most heavily used trails in the country. These projects wouldn't be possible with just county support. We need state support, and our state delegation really stepped up in a significant way, and the commission and the council working together with our state partners to realize them is really significant. So I just think that's really exciting, and I appreciate that we're moving forward. I'll also note we got some playground money, not necessarily tied to this particular budget item, but the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee approved it and will be coming to the full council shortly. It goes through DGS to the school system, but it is part of the same idea of making sure that we are providing our residents, particularly our most vulnerable residents, our younger residents and our older residents, with opportunities for free to be able to exercise, to be able to recreate, to be able to have the health and wellness that they need to live quality lives. And certainly the park system has been a huge part of that, and our state partners have helped put us in that position. So I'm excited about these projects in particular. I think there's a lot here to get excited about, and I'll reiterate the point that was made, that the goal here is for the state support to be additive to the county's efforts and not to supplant the county's efforts, and look forward for us to be able to continue to push the envelope to make sure that we have the quality of life, as Councilmember Navarro noted, that our parks provide so many of our residents. So really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Joando.
Thank you. Good morning. And I also want to thank the Parks team for just being not only innovative in activating spaces, but also innovative in coming back to us after a very robust discussion in Fed about how to use the park fund to offset some of the things we're trying to do, particularly with the fields. And I'm glad we're going to put the other 100,000 on nutrient management on there. Just really want to thank you for what you've done. And you've always been a good partner, and we get good value for what you do, and appreciate that. And wanted to point out, just raise this point. I know fields is something that we all talk about a lot, and we'll continue to talk about because it's a priority of the council. The work that Director Riley and along with the commission has pledged to do to kind of help us rank all of the school fields, even the ones that were done 20 years ago. Just wanted to point that out to colleagues. We got a list that I think will come to you at some point, if it hasn't already, of what are the fields remaining to be done. But also there's this other list of fields that were done 20 years ago that are in bad shape, East Silver Spring among them, for example. And we're going to have to work on a process to say what's the state of all of them so that we can prioritize and have an equity focus on that. And I appreciate your willingness to do that, and just wanted to lift it up for the full council as well, and look forward to continuing to work with you. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Don't see any other questions or comments from colleagues. So, Ms. Dunn, was there anything else that we needed to cover today?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Great. Thank you so much for coming, Chairman Anderson, Director Wright, Director Riley. Thank you all for your leadership. And with that, colleagues, we are adjourned.